Taking your assembly files and turning them into this kind of assembly and disassembly video material can greatly enhance the quality of your maintenance and assembly information. Producing this kind of material as instructions for how the assemblies go together and come apart are a significant improvement on a simple list of instructions. You'll find that having created the assembly, that was the hard bit. Turning that assembly into this explosion of parts is not really that difficult at all. So the start of the process is to open up an assembly file, one that you want to make a presentation of. I've opened up this front center assembly presentation, and I'm going to use it to walk you through the basics of creating your own presentation file. So with the assembly file open, I'm going to go into the application button and select new. And from the metric tab, I'm going to open a standard millimeter.ipn file, invent a presentation file. I'm going to open it. There's basically only one thing you can do. The only option that's available at this stage is the create view option. So I'll left click on it, and up comes the select assembly dialog box. I could navigate to a different assembly, or if I've already got the assembly open and it's the only assembly that's open, I can confidently say OK, and the presentation file will bring in the assembly of the front center assembly. The front center assembly file. To enhance the presentation, I'm going to go into the View tab and select X-ray shadow and back to the presentation. I've just spotted that the assemblies come in back to front, so I'll use the View cube to go to a different isometric orientation. And I'll right click on the home icon and say set current view as home, fit to view. And I'll use this as my new default home view. So to cover the basics in this presentation, I have in mind that I'm going to take the back plate here and I'm going to move it up and away, and then I'll take this plate here and I'll move it a short distance towards me. I'll do the same with the plate at the bottom, and I'll also bring the two cap screws out towards me. Just to show how it's done, I'll make a point of rotating the cap screws as they come out. Once I've done all that, I'll run the whole thing in reverse, and we'll have created an assembly video that clarifies how this assembly goes together, far clearer than any simple set of instructions ever could. So as far as Inventor's concerned then, all of these steps that I've just described are tweaks, and I'll define all of these tweaks by going into the Tweak Components tool and bringing up the Tweak Component dialog box. Just take a few moments to talk about the content of this dialog box. Essentially, with the buttons over here, I'm going to be able to select individual components in the assembly and clarify directions for those components in terms of X, Y, and Z. Over on this side of the dialog box, I'll be able to accurately input the movement information, whether that's in the X, Y, and Z direction for any individual component in a linear path, or whether it's in the X, Y, and Z direction for any individual component in a radial path. So let's get started then. The first thing I'm going to do is to take this back plate and raise it up a short distance and away from me a short distance. So I'm going to pick the Components button and click on that plate. I need to know which direction is up for this plate, so I'll click on Direction and pick on that face of the plate just there, and I can see from the triad the X, Y, and Z positive directions indicated by the arrow. So if I want the plate to raise up 20mm, that's 20mm in a linear direction in the Y axis. So we'll go back into the dialog box and say Y, linear, 20, and I'll hit the apply button. And that plate jumps up 20mm in the Y direction. While I still have it selected, if I want to go back away from me, that would be in the Z direction, but in a negative Z direction because the arrow is pointing in the Z direction towards me. So I'll enter a value of -20, Z, linear, apply. I'll hit the clear button to deselect that plate. And the next component I'm going to look at is this plate in the front. I'll find out the direction by clicking on the front of the plate, and I want to pull the plate in the positive Z direction towards me 10mm, so that will be Z, linear, 10, apply. The next thing I'm going to do is to pull the cap screw and washer here out of the hole a distance of 40mm, and I'll do the same for the other cap screw and washer. So I'm going to hit clear to deselect the previous plate, pick the components tool, and I'm going to grab that cap screw, and I'll zoom in to grab the washer, zoom back out, pick the direction tool and click on that front face and find that that's in the Z direction. But I need to pull that out. So Z, linear, 40, apply, hit clear, components, zoom in, cap screw, washer, direction, Z, linear, 40, apply, and the last step to define is this plate here. I'll say clear, component is the plate, direction, I'll bring the plate 20mm out towards me, so that's Z, linear, 20, apply. Just double click the mouse wheel to zoom all, and I'll close the dialog box. That's all the tweaks defined. I want to see the result of that effort by clicking on the animate button. Up comes the animation dialog box, and if I simply hit play, I can run through the steps, either in forward or reverse manner.